Can you hear me, Dev? Hey, how you doing, sir? Can you hear me? Can you hear me yet? Oh, shit. You got to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. How you doing, Dev?
Hey, good. How about yourself?
Good, sir. I'm so happy that you agreed to do this with me. I appreciate it.
No problem. It's just a formal conversation for me.
You're in bed as well. I love it.
Well, you say bedside manners, right?
Yes, I love it.
I
Thank
said
you so
start
much.
on the theme to start with.
How are you feeling today, sir?
Yeah, just as usual. Nothing special.
Which is beautiful. I love those nothing special kind of moments.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I would like to start with getting to know a little bit more about you. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
So, yeah, let's see. As I shared with you regarding this context, I mean, I'll skip. There's nothing. Personal details are all same, right? Everybody goes through same experiences pretty much. But as far as the subject of non-duality or duality, as I shared with you on the text earlier, right? So I kind of been gone through some experiences where I don't fall in any category, as I shared with you. Definitely, like I definitely have a strong tinge of, or strong flavor of dualistic traditions. So for me, the problem is not so much non-duality, because there are no problems in non-duality. The problem is how we handle duality. And the problem is what our relationship with duality. That's where our problems are. Non-duality, what is there to resolve? I mean,
Yeah.
there's only one. There's no problem, right? The problem is how our non-dualistic perception or conception or whatever our experience, how we integrate it with our dualistic, or in our expression or in our daily life or outward. How do we relate the two? Because it's just, I mean, it's almost irreconcilable difference. If you often we tend to go in non-duality, and we first of all we conceive it as it being opposite of duality. That's the biggest problem, right? That's from what I've seen, that's number one roadblock in really getting a correct or understanding or realization, whatever you want to words you want to call. But because we kind of place the two as opposite to each other, so then we are always trying to divide. This is non-duality, this is not. This is non-duality, this is not. But whereas actually everything is covered, right? In that understanding, there's nothing excluded. So there is room for argument, there is a room for disagreement, there is room for duality, there is room for everything. Everything is covered. So there is no, there's really no border as such. But for the rational mind cannot understand anything without conceptualizing. And
Dev,
for conceptualizing,
you're cutting your face off, man. You need
I'm sorry.
Can you center a little bit? There you go. Beautiful. Sorry about that.
I need to improve my bedside manners.
No. Thank you so much.
But I hope you're able to hear me clearly, and
Yes, absolutely.
Obviously I have a thick Indian accent, so it sometimes makes it harder to understand. But
so problem in you were saying the appearance of dualism versus and a problem. What how would you remedy? the issues of dualism with for the individual.
So first of all, to begin with, it's a valid distinction. It's a valid distinction to distinguish between two versus one, right? It's valid to say whatever you are perceiving, whatever is going on around you, that's not you. It's a valid beginning to start with. So, but and it goes through its own. You refine your understanding of that. Whatever you're perceiving, it's not you. Whatever can be perceived cannot be you.
Yes.
Cannot be. I'll say cannot be exclusively you. Right, but that's the starting. That's the starting point. But that's actually appeals to us a lot in a way that it has room for a lot of intellectual exercise, intellectual discrimination, and that's how we are trained actually in our right. That's a faculty of mind or discrimination that we have developed naturally in our day-to-day life, in our intellectual faculty we exercise all the time. So that aspect of non-duality has a lot of appeal to a lot of people, which is basically that intellectual faculty is how we operate in our daily life most of the time. So it's like using a muscle which is already well developed, right? And that muscle we tend to use more and more. So, but how do you go from there to how do you integrate the two? I mean, there is not one way. It could be anything. It could whatever works for you. It's a valid path. There is no one cutout answer for everybody. You are a photographer. You take a picture. You're looking at the nature, and you realize that whatever you are looking at is also you. You're looking at a mountain. You're looking at a river flowing. At one level, you clearly perceive that it is you. You are perceiving this. There's just appearance of, or there's appearance of division, but you're not looking at something else. You're looking, or you may say one aspect of you is looking at another aspect of you. Mm-hmm. But if you ask me, I can tell you from my perspective, I can tell you how to bridge that gap. Right? Your question was, how do we go from this division of non-duality versus duality? How do we go where the division is not there? So I can tell you what my perspective is music. And even within that music, chanting. So what the chanting is, it's a way basically for you to go from where you are, which is certain thoughts which are ingrained in our day-to-day life, or we have practiced those thoughts and those beliefs a lot. So those have become like absolute truth for us. So we are in middle of kind of this thought imposition, which we cannot shake off. No matter how we try, there's a belief here that there is Dev here talking to Howard. And no matter how much you argue, how much intellectually you analyze it, you cannot just shake it off. Intellectually, you cannot. Because it is intellectually itself which is inducing this apparent difference of this boundary. It is because of the intellectual faculty that this distinction is perceived. So you cannot go beyond it just by intellect. So you have to have something which is not logical. To cut this logical imposition, or what I would say a logical chain, you need something which is not logical, which is totally irrational.
Yes.
So what would that be? Like you have artists which draw, who do painting. There are many wonderful, beautiful work of art. You look at it and it's like all division melt away instantaneously. From what I know about you, I think you have experienced what I'm saying. You look at a work of art, and all of a sudden, all your boundaries that you're holding so tight all melt away in an instant. So for me, it is chanting. So let me sit up now, because what I think, what I'm going to do is I'll sing a chant for you.
Thank you.
So first of all, before you use the chant, we already have so many concepts, right? We have so many concepts. We have concepts against the word God, for example. God word has been misused so much that the moment you use the word God, it brings up so many division in people. Right? I see when I use the word God, because that word has been misused so much, they all those concepts come up. Immediately you feel so much resistance. But we're not talking about a God who is judging you. We're talking about a overarching, call it consciousness, awareness, call it whatever. But it's beyond all the concepts. We are referring to that as God. We are not referring to a bunch of concepts as God. At least when I am saying God, I'm not referring to any concept. So this chant, it is written by Rabindranath Tagore. Originally it is written in Bengali language, and then Paramahans Yogananda, he translated it into English. So in the West, it is better known in English, but the original author is Rabindranath Tagore. So when you're chanting, it's your whole feeling has to be immersed in it. It's just not, because I already said to begin with, this you are trying something, you're trying to cut down your logical chains. So what you're chanting, it has to be accompanied by a complete feeling. So feeling is one faculty we have, which is not logical, which is right, it transcends logic. So you can comment, you can try to overcome a feeling with logic, but you cannot, because feeling is another faculty, right? Like what we say, yin and yang, right? So one aspect, same like logic and feeling, or logic or reason. So usually in my experience, logic is overriding our life. We try to solve all the problem with our logic. It's logical, it's normal, it's to be understood. But what we are talking about, trying to cut down duality versus non-duality, that imposition, that boundary that we think that there is. So to do that, I'm going to just sing a chant for you, and you focus on that words. It is a kind of, it's a chant. It's also inquiry, if those who like the Advaita tradition. But it's beautiful. It'll take you right to the place where you will feel that you might feel, especially if you practice this, you will feel that those borders melting, and you will feel that nothingness or sourcelessness, as you say. There's no source. So it will take you right to that doorstep. So I'm going to chant it for you. Okay. So the words are like this. So feel every word of it, and say the wordings are, who is in my temple? So who is in my temple? That is in this body temple and the mind temple. What is it? What is the force behind? Who actually is there? Who is conscious? What is it that enables life in this form? So who is in my temple? All the doors to open themselves. All the lights do light themselves. There's all the doors, all the doors of that logical blockage or logical conceptions that we have, they open themselves, automatically open themselves, and all the lights, all the faculties that allow us to perceive, all the lights do light themselves. Darkness like a dark bird. So this confusion or this darkness in perception, like a dark bird, flies away, flies away. So that's the wording of this. Who is in my temple? Who is in my temple? All the doors do open themselves. All the lights do light themselves. Darkness like a dark bird flies away or flies away. Okay,
That's
so
beautiful.
yeah,
That's beautiful.
thank you. It is beautiful. So I'm just going to sing it one time. I'll trying to sing this, and those who listen, you listen, find out a recording of this very famous chant. It's just one example. There are so many. I know you love music, and unless you experience what I'm saying, you couldn't have enjoyed the music that you do. Like I know you listen to Indian classical music,
Hmm.
so many other things without what I'm saying, without if you didn't know what I'm saying, if you couldn't feel it, you couldn't have enjoyed that music. How do you transcend the cultural boundaries? You're listening to a music which is not has nothing to do with your upbringing or your cultural conditioning. How does that happen? Usually it doesn't happen, right? But it is only when you transcend those boundaries, only then you are able to connect with everything. So here is that chant. Who is in my temple? Who is in my temple? All the doors do open themselves. All the lies do lie themselves. All the doors do open themselves. All the lies do lie themselves. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh, flies away. Darkness like a dark bird flies away, oh, flies away. Who is in my temple? Who is in my temple?
That's amazing. I
That's it.
love
So
that. It's beautiful.
thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
That's a beautiful. It's beautiful. So
You
who is in
just
your temple?
who's in your temple? So it's the same. Can I really say? No, not really. But when you chant that song, when you chant that and keep on going for like good 10, 15 minutes, hold on to that one question with all your feelings, all your it's not even strength, because when you say strength, then you build basically division. Right? When you use strength to oppose something. So here it's not an opposition, it's a surrender, or it's a kind of, let me say, if I can, it's a kind of like a feminine quality of inquiry, right? There's a masculine quality of questioning, right? It's like a masculine quality is like an interrogation. Right? Do you understand? So like you're in a if a cop was interrogating, it will be a kind of masculine kind of interrogation, right? But this is a feminine kind of inquiry.
Okay. What I'm kind of missing that. You're saying now what is the masculine part?
See, masculine quality is to use strength, use power to overpower, right? So
And
that's
you're
that's that's how
and that equates how to the chant?
I'm saying it doesn't.
It doesn't. Okay.
That's how it doesn't.
Okay.
Because usually when we use, and that's goes back to your question, how do you bridge the gap between non-duality and duality?
Uh-huh.
So typical non-dualistic approach, or what we call non-duality or self-inquiry, we tend to use a lot of masculine inquiry, right?
And when you say feminine qualities as it relates to the chant, how do you mean that?
How do I mean that is, you use your feeling, don't use your logic so much. So
Ah,
when you say who is in my temple, then you're not looking for an answer. You're
ah.
not thinking, bloody damn, I'm going to find an answer. No,
Right.
it's a surrender. You say, who is in my temple? Let the answer come to you.
Now is that kind of universal within like the masculine would be logical reasoning,
It's it
eh,
it's a way of it's a way of conceptualizing
and then the
a
fem and
aspect.
then the
Now it's just a way of conceptualizing
mhm.
a phenomena that we see. I mean, not necessary that a man would be masculine in that way. You could have a man who is very soft. I mean, it depends on your individual, how you have developed your approach, right?
So the masculine would be more physical or materialistically driven. The masculine tenor of the.
It will be kind of like a, like a kind of a forceful approach, I'll say. It'll be more of a forceful approach versus the approach that I'm saying is a softer approach. It's not a force where you're demanding, or at least not in that forceful way.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you demand, there is still a sort of a surrender there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I could come and fight with you and still hold a lot of love for you.
Mm-hmm.
I could fight with you because I love you,
Mm-hmm.
versus I could fight you because I want to destroy you. So
Mm-hmm.
second scenario is what I'm saying. You could still be forceful, but there's a certain surrender to it. There's certain sweetness to it. So this part actually is very common you find in every tradition. The Christian traditions also, you have chants, but how you use it is all that makes a difference.
Mm.
Right? It's not what a tradition is, but what it means to you, how you have internalized it, how you have made it your own.
Mm.
Otherwise, every system can be misused. I mean, every system has a system in itself is nothing but a structure.
Mm.
It's kind of a there's a path or a road driven. There is a certain parameters that are there. Within that parameters, you have some freedom. I'm describing traditions, saying when you have a tradition, you have certain parameters defined. You have a set path, and within those parameters, that tradition allow you to go wherever you want to go. There is certain freedom within the tradition, but how you interpret tradition, no two people can follow the tradition exactly same. So everybody will have their own, because every individual is different. So what works for me will not work for you. It will never work for you.
Mm.
What works for you will not work for me. But once you understand that, then there's a common ground.
Mm.
That's why I'm saying, when I shared with you earlier, I can relate to every single tradition, but I will not fully fit in any one of them, because what I have is my own. It will, no matter which tradition I follow, it will not fit with every single parameter of that tradition.
Mm.
So go ahead. I talk too much, Howard. Go ahead. I want
Oh
to
no,
hear something
I
from you.
love what you're saying. Yes, I agree. I think. Excuse me about that. I think what I'm understanding you saying is that the masculine, you're looking to forcibly make things fit your particular way of seeing, and whereas the feminine is more of a feeling, in that uh, the individual is not so much an individual in the physical sense, but in the appearance of how should I say, a rendition of the whole. It's almost an expression of the totality, and the feminine can kind of understand the various different representations of this uh, through the individual, or through each object, through the appearance of separation, whereas the male wants to logically understand and reason things out, as far as, you and I are different and we need to learn how to understand each other, whereas the feminine says, no, it's different but the same, simultaneously, almost. I mean, that's kind of how I'm taking what you're saying.
Yes, yes, yes. So what I'm saying is, see, what happens is, the truth is, whatever it is, you cannot communicate your reality to me through words. You just cannot.
Yes.
Every time you say that, first of all, whatever you say, your own, how you express it, first of all, that will distort it. Second, whatever you said, I'll listen to it through my own filters. it will get distorted again. So I will perceive a meaning that I'll say Howard said that Howard never meant. So now when I describe to you, when I shared with you what I mean, somebody who's listening, he's going to say, oh, Dave is saying, is kind of highlighting the feminine part, and he's saying the masculine part is bad or whatever. No, but I never said that. But I know this happens. What I'm saying is both are needed, but usually in the non-dualistic traditions, we are much more geared toward that harder expression of use of intellect. You just go to any forum and you see everybody is trying to reason out, right? They're saying, okay, if this is how it is, then this must be like that. It must be like that. We are using the depending on faculty of reason too much. But it is that reason which has caught us in that trouble in the first place.
Yes.
So unless we combine non-duality with that, what we traditionally understand by duality, because there is no such division. There's no such division. These are the terms we have created: duality, non-duality, because we cannot understand the whole.
Yes.
Because rationally we cannot understand the whole. So we try to chop everything in pieces. Then we pick up our piece of the pie and say, oh, this is the best. So there's no such division as non-duality. So again, the original word in Sanskrit language is Advaita. So Dvaita means duality, or where there's appearance of two. Advaita means one or oneness. But Advaita in Sanskrit does not imply is opposed to Dvaita.
Yes.
But non-duality, when it's translated to English, you say non-duality, it already creates a division. So something gets lost in translation right there.
So the masculine would be kind of the paradoxical, the appearance of levels. Let's just call it levels of separation. You have different levels of understanding in the appearance of individuals, and there's certain you have to pick up, or you have to use language to communicate in some form, and that is dualistic in the outset. You know, language is about separation, and what the language is saying though would be more the feminine, in that there is no separation, there just appears to be. Is that kind of like the non-dualistic aspect of the dualistic non-dualistic appearance is it's more of the subtle nuance of that which cannot be spoken. It's even beyond feeling or awareness or experience. All of these words are they fail to represent that understanding beyond understanding. You can't say it. You can't refer to it with language. So I think, if I'm hearing you correctly, it is both, in that the two of us appear to be people having a conversation, but that is the expression of the totality as two people. But it's not necessary. The language itself is the paradoxical kind of it's almost, I like to call it a prank, but it's almost prank-like, in that the words are saying there is no separation while they need separation in order to be said. And so that is the masculine and the feminine of it. And in my understanding, am I in the ballpark?
that sounds about right, Howard. So this morning, something came to me, and I just share with you, which is kind of relates to what we're discussing. And what came was, the words are only the wrappings that conceals the gift. Would you remove the wrapping and unravel the gift?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is the children in America, Christmas time, for example. The Christians have, America, we have Christmas European thing. And the funny thing is that I remember uh, still watching the children open their gifts. They tear open the wrappers and they open the boxes and they look at the toys, end up playing with the box. And they play with the wrapping in the box
Yes, yes,
and leave the toy over to the side. And so it reminded me of that. But yes, the the packaging of the gift. Yes, I like that. I like that.
partly it is, partly it is self-induced, Howard. There's nothing, no right or wrong. There's nothing wrong in playing with the gift
Yeah.
paper. Because eventually, we know once we take the gift out, there's nothing more to do, right? So we postpone opening that gift,
Yes.
right? So that's why it's a play. Once you
Yeah.
took the gift out, what are you going to do after that, right? There's no more activity.
And that is very true. The lack of a need to do something really turns uh, the individual off. A lot of individuals will
That's right.
they don't like not having to search for something. They don't like having to not what is it, how is it, why is it, what is it, and
That yeah,
it's just
e-
that continuous. That's
exactly. So
the
see,
individual.
that's what I meant. That
Yes.
the chains are intellectual. See, that questioning, you're saying, what will I do next? Why now there's nothing to do. What will I do? So that what question is intellectuality, right? That what question, what next, or how, these are all intellectual questions.
Yes.
So these intellectuality keep us in chain, because when it will come time to see, these questions will say, "Oh, what will I do next?" Then we'll
Yes.
postpone. We'll come up with something else. We'll postpone.
And therein lies that people say just be, there's a lot of I've been some non-dualist speakers will say that to even say just be is incorrect because there's not you doing something. But again, we have to use language, and
Mhm.
so the thing is though, it is um, that that feeling of a lack of want um, that I think scares the individual because they don't know what they are if they don't want something. If you don't want something, then that means that can the world be okay with war and suffering and famine and disease and all these pains, and what about this happened to my friend, and what about this tragedy happened to me here, and what about my children is this and that, and the human, the individual cannot simply be in this moment. It's just you cannot put it into words, but there's nothing to do. All of that does not exist right here and now. This beautiful answerless expression of the totality. It requires nothing, and a human doesn't know how to just sit and smile, sing, chant, do whatever you like, but just there is nothing to do, nowhere to go. And in
So,
this way,
mhm.
I think people see, they think, oh, how boring is that, or oh, what would I, you know what do I do with myself now? And it's the funniest thing, it's we just
So
as
yeah,
yeah, excuse me,
the problem is, we want to come to conclusion based on only on sensory perception, right? Because that's what we are familiar with. We want to process everything with our sensory perception, and that is subject to lot of, that is the layer that is subject to all the conditioning and all the misinterpretation. So somebody who's listening to this interview, they will try to understand based on the words we are exchanging, but the actual content is in what is not, cannot be spoken. So it is that environment, call it environment, all that vibration or that feeling that gets created in this exchange, that communicates much more than the words do. But words are tool in creating that environment.
yes,
Words are important because it creates that environment, or it's an expression of that environment. But we are going to get trapped in these words because this guy is speaking with a funny accent. This guy has the background is messed up or whatever. Some mind will come up with some commentary to distract.
Yes.
But the real thing is it doesn't. It is what we are talking about has nothing to do with this person here or that person there. This is just an instrument speaking, and it's just speaking something, but the broadcasting is from somewhere else. That broadcast can come from anywhere. So if you are going to look at, you're going to focus on the microphone that Howard is using, you're going to miss what Howard is saying. So it's just like that. This body is also microphone. So the microphone is speaking something. You focus on the microphone, you won't hear actually what is being said.
Yes, it's the funny thing about words is they appear to be communicating information from one point to another, and it's the focus of the speaker and the listener. Even if you're in the conversation or if you're just like watching this link, for example, it's not that it's you and I saying different things to each other. It is the expression of the both of us communicating information as a whole. So it's not that I am saying and thinking and doing something and you are saying and thinking and doing something. It is the both of us playing this game as an expression of the totality. And what is being said is the subtle nuance of these words point to dualism if you look at it in that way of there's a tennis player on this side of the net, a tennis player on that side of the net, and they're knocking a ball back and forth. But really, it's the game of tennis being played. It's not the individual players and the ball being bounced around. It's the totality of the sport itself. And I mean, that's just an analogy, but it's essentially enjoying that game.
No, right. But when you say that analogy, Howard, you know how crude it is, right?
Yes,
right.
Oh, it's beyond crude.
But the magic is it still gets communicated. I get what you're saying because I know you cannot. There's no way for you to express it exactly. There's no way.
There's no way.
So whatever you say, the point is if it gets communicated, that's all that matters.
Yes.
You could have the most refined analogy, it may not still get communicated. So then what good is that refinement? Refinement is good only if it helps you communicate, and if it helps you understand another person to realize what you're saying, then that refinement is good.
Yes.
But otherwise it's useless. And we often are busy refining. We are busy in the process of refining, but we are not busy in that improving that perception. You could keep on refining the expression all life long and still not get that perception part of it.
Yes. So perception is what did you say?
Perception is what?
Perception. Let's say a perception would be a representation of dualism, would it not? Or no?
But then again, we are getting in that realm of non-dualism or versus dualism.
Right. So the thing being, like my tennis analogy, if you're in the audience watching the tennis match, okay, it's not only the sport, but it's also the audience. It's the weather. It's the
yes.
So it's so it's not that perception. Difficult to. So it's where you're sitting in the perception of it is, let's say you're watching the link, you think you're an individual watching a conversation or watching a sport, as a perceived point. From this point, I am watching this, and all these objects being separate, I am just one of many perceptible points that are in the audience watching this tennis match. But the totality of it is almost a lack of perception, because You cannot come at what we are trying to express as non-duality from any one perception. Yet the thousands of different perceptions is included in the non-duality. The appearance of many perceptions. You perceive many things. This your way. I perceive it my way within that context of duality. That you think and I think. We think separate thoughts. There's a source for our thought. You have a brain that culminates into mind and thought and sensation and perception. I have a brain, a source of thought that is the same way. So we have two separate sources of thought within this dual perspective. My the for me, what it is that there is no source of thought. Um, there is no individual thinking. There is no physicality of a brain that culminates into mind and perception. There just appears to be. So and so these appearances of perceptions at points in time and space uh, kind of culminate into both a dualistic and simultaneously non-dual reality, for lack of a better word, which is and is not real. Because it cannot.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
here comes
yeah,
your favorite quote. Is and isn't.
it
The
is
same.
and isn't. Which is isn't. Well, that's how I
Yeah.
see perception.
And
Perception
that that
would have to be dualistic, but at the same time, you have to use it in order to use language
okay.
and
Perception is dualistic, but is perceiving dualistic? So the process or through which you are having a perception and the process through which I'm having a perception are those two different processes.
I don't think that there is a process.
Uh,
I don't believe in a mechanism, but there
yeah,
appears to be. Yes.
yeah.
And
No. When I say process is, I mean to say the actual perceiving.
yes.
See, there is on the phone that I'm seeing a face of Howard Chance talking to me. Right? That's a that whole process, how that image is being interpreted or is being perceived. Call it a process or call it whatever. Yeah, I'm not. That's what I'm saying. I'm not hung up on semantics.
Yes.
So only what it is pointing at, there is that perceiving is there. I'm not trying to mechanize that process or imply anything else, but that process by which I'm seeing Howard Chance on the screen and Howard Chance is seeing Dave on the screen. That process, how different is it?
Is
Call it a
what now?
process.
That process is what now?
How different is it from
How different?
the
This is
perceptions are
it.
different.
Yeah,
Perceptions are different, right? So
that
there
would
is
be
duality.
that would be impossible for me to say, wouldn't it?
Okay, but you cannot say then it is dualistic, right? That
I
if you said
yeah,
it is a dualistic or there are two different processes, then it will be an assumption.
yes, you're right. Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes,
I cannot say it is one either because then
yeah,
the
yes,
question is the group you created? I don't really know, right?
yes, yes,
Right. And
yes.
that's kind of where part of in the Indic traditions there is said to be a force which is trying to get back everything back into one. Okay, and there is a force which is trying to project everything outwards. So there's a force which that's how it is described. Again, idea is it cannot even that cannot be true, right? I think all it
Well,
is trying to say is again is conceptually is trying to say there's a projecting force or which has kind of a which makes us perceive separately, perceive or
yes,
there's appearance of separation.
yes,
There's a
yes.
appearance of separation. Now that appearance or that force is known as Maya. There's a word called Maya.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
and that is said to be neither real nor non unreal.
Yes.
It's neither real, not unreal. So we
Yes.
try to categorize it as real or unreal. Again, we get caught up in semantics.
Yes. So I like that. So so perception itself is real and unreal.
Yes.
It's amazing. I love that. And that's called Maya. Maya.
Yes.
Maya.
Yes. Which is typically often in English tradition, we kind of think of it as delusion but it's not even in the original meaning. It's not even delusion. In the original meaning, it simply means a projecting force which projects separation.
Yes. So yes. So perception would be the the appearance of individuals and that's called math. So what is non-duality referred to as?
Was that?
So what is non-duality referred to as? If the perception of separation is um, Maya dualism, which I agree with completely. I mean, the mechanism of thought is is not even subjective because you cannot know self to be actual because there's no source for your sensation. There's no source for thought. There's no source for the self. So the self is kind of a loose conglomeration of a definition that really doesn't have any particular prescription. And so, what is the self? How can I know or perceive other and know that to be real if I myself am not prescribed as a self? You know, I mean, if I could be, it's a description. Self is a description, a definition described, but not prescribed, in that there is no actual definition of self. So it's kind of a, you know, so from that perspective, um, in Maya, look at from what appears to be a self, I'm looking at others. I'm having a conversation with Dev. We are exchanging information, but that is only predicated to the understanding or agreement or perception that I am actually thinking. I have a source from, you know, I have a source for my thought. The mechanism, you know, tells me about the reality I appear to be in, but that is not foundational in that I cannot know, um, you know, if any of this is actually real or objectively true, because there, you know, there is no base foundation for the self. There's only a story about a self, and so anything that I would perceive you to be saying would also be a part of that story. Now not only is there an assumed me, but there's an assumed you within this Maya perception of self, and so what I'm saying is from the outset, the dualistic framework of Maya is based in kind of a loose assumption of self and other, but without a foundation for either.
So here basically what it is. Suppose suppose we really want to communicate what we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Then you just have to shut up completely. There will be nothing to say. But if we completely shut up, then again where we are now, right? We are in words. We are our reality. What we think of our reality is proscribed or described by thoughts, by words. So
Yes.
therefore, you cannot say just silence.
You can't leave
It
it. Yeah.
it make no sense.
Yes. You can't
Right.
leave. You can't leave the thought.
So that now I'm relating it back to what I said earlier. So therefore, if you try to dismiss duality, right, what are words and thoughts? Those are duality. What else is duality?
Yeah.
Words and thoughts.
Yes.
If as a follower non-duality, if you are dismissing duality, forget it, then you're lost.
Yeah. There's no. I mean, where do you go from there?
That's right.
It's
There is so
right.
if you get an understanding of non-duality, and you will go and hug duality. That will be the first step.
Yes.
When you tend to get a good real understanding. I'm not saying, so the first stage of non-duality, yes, you will reject duality. You'll say, I can see this, I can see, I can see my body, I can see my thoughts, I can see other people. None of this is real. This is not me. I cannot be touched. I'm not born. I'll never die. You will come up with all of those things, and those are all good. But at a later stage, you are going to say, first thing you'll want to go and say is, you're going to hug duality, say, thank you so much. Without you, there can be no non-duality. Without duality, there can be no non-duality. There is nothing.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So actually, when as follower of non-duality, when people make disparaging comment on duality, they don't know what they're saying. Because the truth is they love duality, and there's nothing wrong with it. That is
Mm-hmm.
also a part of non-duality.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no duality. Could you and me have this conversation?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Could the audience who are listening and maybe hopefully enjoying
Yeah,
or
well,
not?
I'm loving where you're going. This is beautiful, Dev. This is odd. It's an amazing conversation. I love this. Yes, I agree with
So what I'm saying, as a non-dualist,
you. Mhm.
you embrace duality. You don't
Yes,
reject it.
yes,
You do
yes,
not reject it. If you reject it, then
yes,
forget it. Then you are in true duality while you're claiming non-duality, but
yes,
you're stuck in duality,
yes,
right? So
yes,
to say, actually, these are, to say I love you, Howard,
yeah,
these are actual wonderful expressions of non-duality.
yes.
Do not say, if there is no Howard, there's no Dev, how can I say I love?
Mm-hmm.
All that is mind playing its game. All
Yeah,
that is actual the tricks.
yes, yeah. I agree.
So
Well, the beauty of it is, for me, what I like to refer to as the slip from of the self. From this is, I'm going to use loose language, but the slip of the self into the non-dualistic, the unspeakable, the unknowable, the just the unnameable, non-separation aspect of the what appears to be, um, not even nothing. Uh, as you slip into this from the dualistic understanding of a self, uh, there's a terror involved in the ripping away of the identity, but not only the identity, but that anything you know can be identifiable or even relative to any position or thought. So there's this terror, this fear with the slip, and what it is this the dualistic identity slipping into the non-dual thinglessness, and that it's a slip and then a snapback. You want to come back into dualism because it's terrifying. You're literally disappear. You're just dissipated, and so there's this thing where you slip and snap back, slip and snap back, and you don't know whether you're going insane or you're just losing your identity. It can be terrifying. And so what happens is, this is just me, playing with language a little bit, but speakers in general, I think, find speaking about what they've quote unquote experienced almost grounding in the dualistic world. Like, I am speaking to you about these terrifying lack of identities, but that is comforting to me because I am a self here now speaking to you, and I can do that comfortably. I am me speaking to you. I have ideas and experiences that I can share, and in this way, I feel in some way um, comfortable about speaking about the subtle nuances of what cannot be spoken. And while I'm doing that, it's almost a hypocrisy because I am grounding myself in this dualism and terrified of that actual lack of self, the terrifying lack of identity essentially makes the speaker speak to others, in even though it's not real, it's an illusion, it's not real. It's also not that hardcore slip from what would quote unquote be considered reality, or reality. Um, a sane person in reality that realizes they are separate from other things. Now you lose that self into that terror, that terrifying lack of identity, and for some reason, immediately, um, it's just what it's almost like you will, disappear altogether. What happens if you just slip into thinglessness? And I think a big, uh, a big remedy for this is the what ends up happening is a speaker just starts talking about it.
Yeah. So a part of it is, Howard, again, it goes back to this, apparent division of non-duality versus duality,
Yes.
right? So why do we have a problem with identity? Once you know its identity, have no problem with identity.
Mm.
Have no problem with identity. The truth is that when the identity disappears, or when what we call enlightenment or that experience comes, we would want to run away from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is the truth, because it, as you said, is terrifying, having all your built up identity and which you thought were you slipping away. So
Mm-hmm.
have no problem with identity in the first place.
Yeah.
It's a gift to you. So it is really is a gift to you. And the part of it is we have, a romanticized idea of enlightenment and all this spiritual journey.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, all this Hollywood and Bollywood movies that we have watched, which has all this romance and,
Right.
happily ever lived after, exciting parties, all of that, right? So this is all projected here. All of that is projected onto non-duality.
Yeah,
We are,
brilliant
yes,
colors and all of these different,
yeah, exactly.
wizard type things. Yes.
So we are looking for something fantastic, some,
Yes.
like
Yes.
fireworks and things like that.
Yes.
So something as plain as, we are not expecting something which is, colorless.
Well, see, and that, thank you.
Yeah.
It's colorless. It's not even. It's colorless.
Yeah.
That was the thing that I used. That was the thing when it's beyond. It's there are no colors. That's
The truth,
thank you.
yeah, you think, so
Thank you.
many,
Yes, thank you.
so many projected ideas. You thought, when you get the taste of reality, or you understand, and you will have so many followers, people will bow before you. I don't know what all crazy images we have, right? And this is what is, again, you will live in the world of marketing. It doesn't matter you are in spirituality or non-duality. We live in the world of marketing. So
Yes, yes,
now to make, and goal of marketing is, most of it, you have a product and sell it, make a lot of money.
yes,
So if you know it or not, we are all subject to this conditioning. So
yes.
there are a lot of workshops going on, retreats and whatever, and which are subtly projecting that image. So otherwise, nobody's going to attend the retreat. If they said it's a colorless thing, you're going to find.
That was the big thing with me, with my initial slip was, I kept saying there are no colors, and I was just a kid, and my teacher called my mom into class. You know your son doesn't keeps saying that there are no colors, and it's difficult. People don't understand that it's beyond light and dark. It's it's not even it's like you're saying with the dualistic non-dualistic. It's to say there is no dimension is a dimensional, the negation of a dimension is dimensional. There is no way to articulate this. But yes, I'm so happy you said that, because not many people understand that. I mean,
No,
the
the thing,
dualistic.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the
No, the thing
dualistic.
is, we don't know. The thing
Yeah,
is, Howard, we are in such a world of marketing at this time.
yeah.
It always was, but especially now, we don't know what is our experience and what is being told to us that it is our experience. We don't know the difference. Because if we could see what really our experience is versus what we are being told, or what we believe, then it's a piece of cake. I mean, it's something just plain.
Yes.
But we project what all that we have learned, we project that onto what our experience is, and then we believe that that's what is real. For example, we talked about this earlier also. I mean, who has experienced a brain? Who has a direct experience of brain? Now, I can say I can see my finger, but who has a direct experience of brain? Tell me. Nobody has experience of direct brain. My thinking.
Yes.
But we since childhood we have thought about brain power and brain. I'm not saying it's not.
Yes.
Don't get it wrong. I'm not saying there's no brain, but we do not have a direct experience of it.
Well,
Right?
go ahead, please.
Yeah. So basically, then we start assigning all the intelligence to brain. Right?
Yes.
That your brain is sharper if you are intelligent. There's no proof for that. There's no proof that your brain, your intelligence is something else. Okay, brain, again, I'm saying brain is an instrument. Okay, it's a physical instrument, but we assign so many things, we ascribe so many things to models which we have no direct
I
experience of.
agree. I agree completely. It appears we have a brain, a physical brain. The dimension, physical dimension, appears to be, self-evident. But there is no validation in an absolute sense for that mechanism. And it does appear physical, it does appear dimensional, it does appear to be time and space, though it is none of those things. And yet you can't negate it without subjugating it. So so what it is it's prior, it's even prior to the notion of thought or experience, in that a person is doing something. No, it's the story of that. And I keep saying story, but no, I'm hearing what you're saying. Yeah, I like it.
That's why more we talk, more I'll point out that your group that you created, I don't really know. That's fundamental. I don't really know you.
No.
I want to believe I know, I don't really know.
Yeah,
so the acceptance of that. Yeah, the
yes,
acceptance of that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I like what you're saying with the represents, or the how you are referring to the duality, and that you can't have one without the other. And there's a the beautiful thing about experience, or the lack, or even discussing the lack of actual experience. It's the funny thing is that it truly is, uh, you know, it truly is inarticulable. You cannot you cannot say it. There's there is no way to say it. There's no way to say what is both and neither and something else entirely. Not a thing.
So it is again in non-dualistic tradition, Advaita, or the Indic traditions. It is called, the word, Sanskrit word is achintaya, means beyond conception. It cannot even be conceptualized.
Yeah.
It cannot be conceptualized.
Yes.
So if it could not be conceptualized, it cannot be spoken. So it is clearly, to begin with, it says, to forget about it, don't even try. You cannot.
Well, and that's the thing, isn't it? It to be conceptualized, that's the level of the mind that is not validated by the mechanism that the mechanism story that the mind tells. So the mind has no source it has no beginning, it has no middle, it has no end, it has no definition. So you cannot, the level of mind is even, it's so paradoxical. You can't even discuss beyond mind, because the mind is already the assumed individual within the appearance of dualism, and it does and does not exist. It appears to, but doesn't as it appears. And I find this fascinating. It's beautiful, and I think you're right. The dualistic aspect of it is as the non-dual aspect of it. There is no difference. You are an appearance, I am an appearance, but I wish you well as an appearance. That's the beauty of it. We are actually not as we appear, but there's nothing There's
Actually,
nothing stopping us
if
from
we
being
really
happy about
understand,
that.
yeah, if you really understand, it's something I feel a little, little sad about, little angry too, in the sense that if we really understood non-duality, right? If you really understood, the first thing we will do is we'll accept everybody as is. Don't
Yes.
impose any conditions on them.
Yes.
Because you don't say that this guy is thin or this guy is fat or this guy is like that, like that. Moment you do that, it's already the violence is coming in already. So if you really want to enter any understanding, just that biblical passage, judge not. It's so profound. It's just so profound because it's our judgment which has created all the problems. Before everything we are passing judgment on. That's judgment is nothing but thought, and conclusions for which we have no evidence. That's
Yeah.
judgment.
Yes.
Conclusions. You look at a person, he looks certain way, he talks in certain accent. You conclude that this is either a very smart guy or a very idiot. So judgments. You don't
Yes.
know. Simple thing is you don't know. Even when that person speaks, still you don't know.
Yes.
Even when you have a direct experience of that person, you still don't know
No. No.
what his experience of life is. You do not know.
Yes.
So judge not. Those are just. I mean, I can't even describe how deep that is. Really, of
Yes.
course, we gradually everything gets a meaning and gets limited to that meaning. But truly, these simple things they actually are so fundamental and they are so deep.
Yes. 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 And that's it's beautiful. Um, yeah. There's I agree. The thing about judgment is judging yourself, for example, being highly critical of yourself is also detrimental, I think, to happiness. I mean, to a certain degree, though, you don't. I mean, there's a certain amount of I don't know, protocol involved with dealing with people and things like that. But to not only judge others, but I think that might be based in the self critique, the self judgment.
It
That
is,
you're
yeah,
so
yeah.
down on yourself that you have to project
It is
that.
the same two sides of the same coin, and that's why it is said. Because if you are judging others,
Yes,
you are going to judge yourself too, and then
yes,
you'll always be miserable because then you are always saying, I don't look pretty, I'm not handsome, my muscles are not that strong, my weight is not right, my hairs are white. You will be judging on everything then. So
yes,
it's actually very hard to accept yourself as is. To be honest with you, at least for many people,
yes,
it's
yes,
much easier to accept others because you
yes,
don't have to live with others all the time. You
yes.
see them, you accept them, you say, okay, brother, you're exactly as you are, you're perfect. Then gradually it'll become easy to accept yourself too. But I mean, it could be other way for some. Again, there's no right or wrong. Whatever works, as long as phenomena is understood. And I have to say that Howard, actually, you are a wonderful person. Your expression is wonderful. You approach everybody with the open spirit. Everything I said did not fall into your bucket, but you are open to listening, and that's wonderful. And that's the only reason that you have some wonderful communications and your audience enjoy. Because if
Well,
there was, yeah, otherwise it wouldn't flow, right? If there are the barriers, it's finished.
I'm so grateful, Devin. It's so beautiful. Yeah, I'm working on that myself. Not trying to critique myself so much. I think I might. Uh, I'm learning as I go. I think I have uh, an issue with my lack of formal education, and sometimes I try to throw too much in the way of logic. I think in what I'm saying to people, because I say I don't want to lie, so I'm trying to articulate exactly what I mean, and I end up losing people uh, because they can't understand what I'm saying, and I instead of just being plain, I think I might throw too much into some of the things I write and stuff. But I critique that, and then and here we go. We have issue where no matter what I do, if a person, if I'm trying to, talk to the person on their level, then another person will say I'm too plain. And then if I talk to another person on an intellectual level, then people say, well, this is not of the mind. So there's nothing that you can do to actually please everyone. It's always going to be this way.
You cannot. And the part about it is Howard, what is your gift at one level is your curse at another level.
Ah, it's so beautiful. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because, yes. you mentioned your lack of education.
Yes.
I don't know your formal education or what you mean by that. Yeah. But whatever it is, I can guarantee you, if you were educated, you wouldn't come to this level of understanding.
Yes.
Because then that gift will become your curse at this level. So it is okay. It is whatever it is, except the whole, as I think Wayne Dyer said, the whole enchilada. So I say accept the whole thing as is. It is okay. If it was perfect at every level, there's nothing like that. That's just a romanticized idea. There's nothing perfect at every level. So it is perfect, whatever it is.
I was speaking with Kokila the other day, and she was at the meeting. She had sent me a book on the Maharish, and we had been talking about a deity. We've been talking about God and this kind of topic, and she sent me this book on Maharish, and I was pleased to see that he does not, in fact, speak of a deity like a Christian or Judeo-Christian or Islamic God. It's not a singular, it's not that kind of God. He, at least the way I took it, he was using the word God to express immediate experience, and more like the slip that I was referring to earlier in thinglessness. And it's just it's such a it's funny because he's using words that will somehow relate to the people around him, or maybe that's just the way he knew how to relate it. But he was not, I mean, it seemed obvious to me that he was not talking about something separate. It's not like a God and an individual. He's not saying that. He's saying the lack of either.
That's one expression. And of course, when you say Maharaj, I think you're talking about Nisarg Datta Maharaj.
No, well, that too, that was beautiful as well. But no, Maharaj. I wish I could remember his first name.
That's fine. It doesn't matter. But there are many. But what I'm saying, it is true. What I'm saying is, even in the dualistic expression, okay. So when I say Krishna or Rama, I could be saying that name, but internally my representation might be the same universal consciousness awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. I'm not thinking of, for me, I pray to Christ. I'm not thinking of a person.
Yes.
I'm not thinking of a person. I'm thinking of, and that's what Christ meant. He also says in so many places, right? He himself is not referring to.
Yeah.
He himself is not referring to a personal God. He's saying before Abraham was I am. Yeah. What kind of person can fulfill that condition? He is not. Yeah. But we are trapped by our own meaning. We are all trapped by our own meaning. Mm-hmm. So that's part of, as far as Hinduism is concerned, a lot of confusion on that account, even among Hindus. Yes. Right? Because on our side, we have 33 million of deities. What that means really is everybody has a different representation. Everybody has a different representation, internal representation. Mm-hmm. No two people think of Christ the same way. They just believe they do. They sit down and talk about it. Mm-hmm. They will think that what they think of Christ or their conception is different than somebody else. Yes.
Well, yes, I agree. It's not, when I read the Bible, I saw it as a reflection. I saw it as a reflection, as not only to myself but to mankind. It's kind of an expression of where man is, as essentially, and I see it as a reflection of myself. It's a mirror, and so as I was reading it, and I read it cover to cover, and the thing about it is what I see in this, I see in myself. And so everywhere I went to ask somebody a question about it, they would give me their rendition of themselves. And
Uh-huh.
that's how
Exactly.
it is. We, you know,
And
in that,
as a man thinketh, so is in his heart.
yes.
Right? That's what they
So
say. So
yeah, so the entirety of experience, the entirety of existence, to the individual is essentially, it's a mirror onto this loose configuration of self. And so you lose that subject object, in that, you know there's not really a definable tether to a self, or to any kind of foundation that say, well, this is where relativity begins and all things are relative to this self. Well,
mhm.
once you lose that point, you lose that place, there is no definable position to take, then all things start to broaden a bit. It's not so much I am experience, this mirror of experiences to the self. You realize there's no self, and then all of a sudden everything kind of comes a little more clear, because it's not, there's really no original foundation of a reflection. It's just reflection. And so there's not, you lose the need to project yourself, or the fear of the lack of self. And you project that into the world of experience, and you want other people to listen to you and believe what you're saying, and all these kind of things start losing. You don't need to do that. It's so yeah. The book showed me that, um, the reflection itself is kind of, it's paradoxical, but it has to do with the fear of loss and all of that kind of thing. Once you lose all of that need and want, and desire for an answer, and all of these other kind of questions, the entire experience becomes more enlightened, and there's no real need to uh, to project your own interpretation out there,
Mhm.
and then you are open and freer to grow, and just enjoy the beauty of the paradox, the beauty of the mystery, the mystery of it
So
all is just, yeah,
yeah, so
yeah,
this is the magic here is, Howard. We talked about something that cannot be talked about, right? But still there is comprehension. There's still, you say something, I because inside we are experiencing the same reality, one way or the other, one flavor of it or the other. So the only way you can appreciate, or enjoy what I'm saying, is only way is because you experience it yourself. I did not tell you one single thing original, because I might be saying it, but I am saying your words. That's the only reason you are enjoying it. Otherwise, there's always a conflict. So it's eventually it's based on your own realizing your own truth, or whatever it is. Nobody else can say something, or at least it won't get registered. If somebody is saying something, you haven't experienced it, most it will do is it'll cause some confusion. Then maybe it's up to you to analyze that confusion and resolve it within yourself. But it's wonderful, we spent good 1.5 hours talking about nothing.
yes. Well, the beauty with this is, also, if I may, uh, once you realize it's a reflection, um, all things, all things are just reflections, and it's just an echoing, just bouncing endlessly down the hallway. It's just so beautiful. And Dev, I mean, honestly, what a breath of fresh air. I mean, you're a beautiful person. I really do appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Wonderful, Howard. Same here. I appreciate being
Yeah, well,
connected to you and having an opportunity to talk to you. I do really. Thank you.
I'm, I'm I'm just so grateful. Thank you, Dev.
Thank you. So
Um, if I
let's
had,
call it a day then. Yeah.
yeah, if I had, the one thing that I've been critiqued about my interviews is that they're too long. So, what I want to ask you is, would you mind if I called you in a month, and so we do it again?
Yeah, sure. We can do that. It's fine. Yeah. Why not?
Dev, thank you so much, sir.
I didn't know what we'll discuss today, and I wouldn't know what we'll discuss that day, but we'll see it then.
Let's do it
Yeah,
again. Sure.
yeah, sure. Enjoy
Thank
talking
you,
to you.
sir.
Thank you, Award. Thank you.
You're beautiful, man. Thank you.
Thank you.